Hello guys, since I have the Massey 8680 pretty much finished, I decided I'd do a bit of a power test and we'll see how it compares to the Britain's John Deere tractor that we tried out before and my track John Deere, which was able to climb some pretty extreme angles. But this tractor doesn't have N20 motors like the John Deere did, so it's actually got motors from a Siku Control 32 model. So we wouldn't expect this model to have quite as much power as the John Deere 8360 RT. But this should give us a good idea of what a Siku Control 32 model motor is capable of. I'll just do the little power test before we start with the little weighing scale thing here that I normally do. I'm doing it on a different surface today because the 3D printer is on the surface that I usually use, and it's going to be printing for a couple of hours, so I'm going to just do it on this surface now, but it's pretty similar. There's not much difference really. I wouldn't say there's any more grip on this. So, first test, 0.35. We'll go again. .35 is the value I'm getting for this tractor on this surface, and I'll just get the John Deere just to do a comparison. I can't remember what the John Deere pulled on the other surface, so we'll pull the John Deere on this one too, just to be sure. Okay, I'll try and do the John Deere now. A little bit difficult with one hand. That's 0.35 as well. So we're getting 0.35 there. So the two models are pulling with the same power on this surface, but there is a big difference. Where the John Deere has just the power to keep spinning its tracks once it loses traction, the Massey hasn't lost traction. It's actually reaching its stall torque. So when you're on a grippier surface, when you have enough traction, the John Deere is easily going to outpull the Massey. But a thing to remember is the motor, the Control 32 motor in this Massey, it's not designed to pull huge amounts of power. It's really designed to be a kid's toy, so it's only supposed to be able to pull the little empty trailers with the, say, the fake, they have fake bulk grain and stuff that you can buy, or the fake silage. All that stuff is really, really light. It's just like dust. So that's all they really want to be able to pull with the models. So they weren't going to design a motor that had huge amounts of power. Also, the motors in the John Deere, they're very slow, which makes the model very slow, which is great if you're trying to plough something and you need huge amounts of power and you don't need lots of speed. But if you're trying to sell a tractor to children, you're going to want the speed of the Massey. You're not going to want really slow John Deere like this, because to have the space to create a diorama big enough for ploughing and all that stuff, you're pretty much going to be talking an adult, which isn't going to be Siku's intended market, because there's going to be a much larger amount of children who are going to want to buy radio controlled tractors than there are adults, and having high speed and maybe dimmer lights, they might sacrifice on the detail. That sort of thing isn't going to be that noticeable to children, whereas an adult is probably going to want a lot more pulling power and brighter LEDs. Tractor that looks more realistic, really. That's what they're going to want. So I think Siku have made the right choice in this motor for their models, because that's going to obviously maximise their market. But for us making the models ourselves, what you have to consider when you're building them is Siku Control 32 motors. They're very good. You'll probably be able to fit them into your model relatively easily, but they're just never going to have the same pulling power as the N20 motors. But on the other hand, the N20 motors take a lot more space and take a little bit more effort to control, a little bit more complex coding. So you need to make your decision on what to do. Probably if it's your first build, I'd go for the N20 motor. Keep it simple, and even the mounting to the wheels is relatively easy. Mounting to the N20 motors with the 3mm D shaft, that's a little bit more tricky. So you need to consider these things before you build your model. Okay, so just to get started, we'll do a couple of baseline tests. So, how the tractor performs with... So we'll just see how the tractor performs with no load in the trailer at different angles, and we'll see what angle it stops pulling with no load in the trailer. I think the tracked John Deere ended up being able to climb about 25 degrees, so I think we'll go up in 5 degrees intervals here, and this will probably get to maybe 15 or 20, so we'll just see how we go here. So that's 5 degrees, no problem with an empty trailer, and this is 10 degrees with an empty trailer. It's starting to slow up a bit. The Siku Control motors don't seem to be able to hold on the angle. Alright, now we're up to 15 degrees, so we'll see how good it is now. So, still struggling, but it still has the power to pull off on the hill. So, at 15 degrees, it's just about capable, but we're still pulling an empty trailer, so it's probably not all that impressive really. We're up to 20 degrees now with no load, and it looks like that is the limit. It's just not able to pull up this load. So 20 degrees is the limit for the Massey 8680 with no load, which probably isn't all that bad really. I mean, the John Deere pulled a lot more, but it had 2 and 20 motors that were geared down much lower than this tractor. This tractor is really fast. John Deere very slow. It's been geared down a huge amount, so you would expect the John Deere to pull a hell of a lot more than the Massey. So I guess this will probably be able to pull the full load up maybe 5 degrees, maybe 10 degrees. So I'll load the trailer now and weigh it, and then we'll see what sort of an incline we can pull with a full load of gravel. It's been raining today, so the gravel could be heavier than it was the last day I done this. So we'll just weigh it up and see what it is. So the load weighs 1 kilo. I'm not sure how that measures up to the previous test we did, but it should be good enough for the test anyway. So first test on the flat, just as a kind of a baseline test, and no problem pulling the full load on the level. So I'll move it up to 5 degrees and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, here's the 5 degrees test with 1 kilo. And again, not much trouble pulling up that hill. And no problem pulling from the middle of the hill. Okay, up to 10 degrees now. And that's it, it would appear. We don't have the power to pull 10 degrees. Okay, so this is 10 degrees with a little bit of a running start. No, it's just not able to pull that load up 10 degrees. "10 degrees is the limit of this Massey 8680. So this Massey has the motor from a Siku Control 32 Fendt 930 model, and this is basically the limit that motor can pull with our motor driver. I actually won an auction on eBay yesterday for a bunch of Siku models, and one of the models in the set is a Siku Control 32 Fendt 930 model. So we should be able to do a similar test with that model and see if they have a better motor driver. Maybe we can figure out what the better motor driver is, and then we might be able to use it ourselves in future. So that should give us a good idea of a comparison between the homemade models and the Control 32 models. So if you want to see that comparison, make sure to subscribe. That'll be up in maybe a month or two after I receive the model and have some time to test it out. I'll also be taking the model apart to show you how the different parts of the Siku Control 32 model works. I'll also be trying to upgrade the lights on the Control 32 model, because obviously they wouldn't be as bright as the lights that I have on my other models, so they'd kind of look out of place if I was doing any videos in the dark, say, of the models working together. If the Control 32 model comes by with dim lights and everything else is going around with super bright LEDs. So I'll have to upgrade that, and that'll obviously mean that the Control 32 model won't last as long. The battery will go flat a lot quicker, but we might be able to modify the battery so that we can use our own in the trailers, and that might help that too. So that's the power test of the Massey 8680 done. If you liked that video, make sure and hit the like button, and if you have any comments or suggestions, head on over to the forum and let me know there. And that's pretty much everything, so thanks very much for watching.